Take the Leap is the podcast where we get real about the roller coaster that is entrepreneurship and life. Sure, some folks make running a business look like a walk in the park, but let's be honest, it's more like a wild ride through a theme park with a lot of unexpected twists and turns.
Join us, your co-hosts, Ashlan
and Tori,
as we spill the beans on our own real-life experiences and shine a spotlight on some amazing guests. From the highs of success stories to the lows of epic failures. And hey, we'll even throw in some cringe-worthy, laugh-out-loud, embarrassing moments for good measure.
So buckle up and tune in every Tuesday and Thursday for a dose of raw, unfiltered truth about what it's really like to chase your dreams and build a business.
Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes into the startup world, we've got something for everyone. Even if it's just to make you think, wow, I'm glad I didn't do what they did.
Welcome back to Take the Leap. We're so excited to talk to our guest today. Today's guest is a marketing strategist, writer, and community builder who knows that relationships, not algorithms, are the foundation of a thriving business. Dusti is the founder of the Reinvention Co and the host of Referral-Worthy, where she helps service-based business owners build businesses that grow through trust and word of mouth, not just endless content creation. With a background spanning in self-help, SaaS, book marketing, and course creation, she's worked with everyone from solopreneurs to New York Times bestselling authors to make sure that their marketing actually works. Dusti, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you.
Thanks for being here, Dusti.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm so happy.
And for those of you who don't know, we've recently talked with Mary Williams on the show. And so I met Dusti through our little feral book club that brings me so much life and joy. So I'm really excited to have my worlds cross again by having you on the podcast. So welcome. Welcome. Well, the way we always start off the podcast is we ask the same question every time. And we ask, what is your take the leap story? And by that, we just mean, what made you take the leap, if you will, into starting your own business and into doing what you do now?
Totally. So I have been in business for a long time. I started back in 2011, and I started because I was a poor mom of 22 who couldn't afford childcare, to be totally honest. I was putting myself through college and I was convinced, I'd been fed the millennial trope, if you just go and get the degree and, you'll be able to make it out. And the more that I looked at my options, the more I'm like, I don't think that's true, actually. And also, I think that I would rather jump off a bridge than finish this degree. It was environmental studies. It was not I've taken some good pieces from it, but college was not my bag. And so I started looking online for something else, anything else. And I ended up finding something called the 101 in 1001 list. And the idea is that you start a list of things that you've never done before. And over the next 1001 days, you try them and you see how many of them you can get through. And one of mine was to learn a productivity system because I'd finally come to a point in college where doing everything the night before was no longer producing quite the same results that it used to. So I was one of those kids who could just get away with doing the 10-page essay the night before. And so that's my brand of ADHD. So once I got to that point, though, I ended up finding blogs and I was like, these are great. I could do this. And so I did. And 2 weeks later, I went viral for the first time. And the rest is kind of history. I tried to figure out how to make money doing it. And somebody told me I should be a copywriter. And I was like, what the hell is that? And then I Googled it and stuck up my shingle for a whole $12 an hour. More money than I'd ever made in my life. So that was really the start of it, though. I had come to this point where up to this point, I'd been a Starbucks barista. I'd had weird little side jobs here and there, and nothing was really, nothing had stuck, nothing had worked for me. And then when I came online, I just found this incredible community of people who were other weirdos like me. And that was completely life-changing for me. I'd always felt like such a misfit growing up in my community. And suddenly, like, I had all these people who not only didn't think I was crazy, they were also like willing to pay me money to help them do cool shit. And I was like, this can be my job. So, like, I didn't really go into it, like, thinking, "Oh, I'm going to go be a copywriter. I'm going to be a marketer." Like, my career has developed, like, so organically over time that, like, at this point, like, I'm not sure what else I would do with myself. Like, occasionally I get bored with it and things, but really, like, I love the people that I get to work with so much, and, like, I don't really care how I get to help. I just happen to be good at this thing because 'cause I've been doing it for, 15 years now.
That's incredible. I love there's a few things you said that I just love. But I really resonate with the part of your story where you're like, I was going to college and I was like, I'm not doing this because I did finish college, but it was like pulling teeth. I swear, like towards the end, especially. And I'm like, there were several classes that I just kept retaking just to like get there. And I was like, is this really worth it? Like, is this really? And honestly, looking back, like the things I do now, and like I did study marketing, but like the things I do now, like I'm not pulling from my college degree for
Right.
what I'm doing now because none of it's relevant. None of the things I learned are relevant to today.
Oh, 100%. Like, it's so funny, like, growing up, I did tons of theater, like, tons of theater. I counted at one point, and I've been involved in, like, over 150 productions in some way or
Oh
another,
my
like, whether
gosh.
that was on stage or backstage or whatever. And, like, the older I've gotten, the more I'm like, it's so cute how everyone told me that was such a waste of my time because you know what skills I use literally daily? You know who's not afraid to go get up on stage? You know who can
Yeah.
fucking wing it in a podcast interview? Like, it's so funny the way that humans like pick up skills, and it's so easy for us to discount the things that we're like naturally good at and enjoy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, I always say like it's better to be good at learning how to do multiple different things. Like, I did school, I was fine at school, but I think the thing that I had was I had like a voracious appetite for learning. So like,
Mhm.
I took marketing in high school because it was offered as an elective. And that's like where I became like fascinated with it and was like, okay, so this is launching me towards a business degree as opposed to my other route, which I really liked psychology, which so much of marketing
Yes.
is human
Right.
psychology. And so I was like, do I really want to shrink people? Like, is that really the path I want to go? I was like, no, I would rather like at the time, all marketing was just like, how can we sell products to people that kind of need it,
Right.
But I was fascinated with what drives people to buy because it isn't anymore just price. It is a lot of, what you and I do, Dusty, which is that storytelling. It's,
Mhm.
that you say that you've been in theater a bunch. It's being able to like interact with people and make that human connection because people, yeah, we buy stuff, but we buy from people and we buy for like
Yeah.
that relationship and the connection. So you can sell somebody, something super expensive and people will be like, how and why? And it's like, I had an emotional type of connection with those, folks. It isn't, people think rationally, but they don't. It's so
Right.
much is that underlying emotion drive as well. So
Oh,
yeah.
totally. Well, and it's so interesting. I was just recently on another podcast where we were specifically talking to like brand new business owners, and we were talking about how normal it is for people who are just getting started to be like, when you're like, okay, it's time to tap your network, it's time to do some networking. And everyone goes, I don't know anybody. Like, and they like freeze up, and it
Mhm.
turns into like this head game. And I mean, when you call it something like networking, like I get it, but
Mhm.
like that's exactly what that makes me think of. Like, you really have to, especially if you are in some kind of a service-based position, like fundamentally you have to be making that one-to-one connection with people, and that can happen in a lot of different ways. It doesn't even have to happen necessarily with you there, but it's so important to like to really focus on those connections.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're all people.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, I have our next question, which is what piece of advice would you give yourself when you started out, knowing what you do now in your business?
Hmm. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is divorce his ass. But when I think about my business, when I think about my business, I think the biggest thing would have been to trust myself more, even at the very beginning. Like, I was so convinced that other people had the answers. And I mean, like, and I still see myself and other people fall into this from time to time. It's like when you start downloading other people's freebies, even though you don't need them, like, you already know it's going to be like garbage or like just try to sell you like some expensive thing that you don't really need. But that awareness that like you have some skills. Like I had a lot to learn about business, but like even back at 22, like I was a damn good writer. And that was part of why it was so easy for me to continue to get work doing that. Um, so I think that what the two things would have been like on the one hand, like nobody has the answers. Nobody has the answers. And you're just going to have to like suck it up and get used to that. But like that's kind of your 20s. But the other piece of it probably would be to find some kind of mentorship, but specifically around what it means to run a business and like the soft skills that like I mean the hard skills and the soft skills around it, I guess. To your point about like taking the marketing class in high school, like I took accounting in high school. So like for bookkeeping and stuff out the gate, I was like, actually, like surprisingly, I could do this part. Like, but there were so many other things like, managing client experience and things like that, that like you just like, I didn't even know those terms existed until even the last couple of years. So the learning curve there was steeper than it needed to be, I think.
That makes a lot of sense.
I feel that. Yeah, for sure. I still feel like I struggle with that a little bit too, but I feel like everybody we live and we learn.
Right. I know it's so easy when somebody's like, especially when someone's marketing is so like slick and everything just looks so
No.
good and polished and like you never know what's going on the back end and not just in their lives but in their businesses.
Mhm.
And like I mean, I've worked with a lot of very very successful people, and the amount of them who have stressed out teams or like are letting their ego run the show, like things like that, it's hard to watch. I mean, I can think of somebody like in the last couple of years that I worked with where like you could see like she was just like torpedoing her company with some of the decisions that she was making from like a place of insecurity. And it didn't matter how many times you tried to tell her, like until she gets there, like it's not going to happen. And it's just really, really hard to watch that stuff. But like, it's like, again, it's people running businesses. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like,
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's a good reminder because, yeah, I mean, I just feel like anytime people talk about running a business on Instagram or anything, it's always like the good stuff, right? Like it's
mhm.
always the pretty, the aesthetic. And yeah, we've talked about this a lot. It's just, it can get to you really quickly of like, oh, my office does not look like that, even on its best day. Like, but, at the end of the day, like we all have our own shit that we're going through,
Mhm.
and we all have our own things. And yeah, it could be a complete utter chaos behind the scenes. And you know you could just got I don't know how to tell myself to stop comparing myself to others, because I don't know what the secret sauce to that is, but if we could just do that.
Yeah, yeah. I get it.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, that like people, if you are taking advice from other folks, like they can't fix your business. Like it's still your steps, your stages, and nobody, what worked. And I'm sure you've had to pivot, Dusty, since you started your business. What worked in 2011, like does most of it doesn't work anymore, other than the relational one-on-one getting to know and connect with people. Because at the end of the day, having that network and having those folks to pick up the phone, to and reach out to is super important. Like one of the reasons my business took off so early is that I had done a ton of networking just like as an individual person and gotten to be known for doing marketing. And then once I said, hey, I have a business where I do this thing. Everybody was like, so, it was one person who was like, hey, do you want to do marketing for this person? And then it was the next, and it just like snowballed to then you become known as the person who works with this, specific container of people doing this specific thing. And as long as you keep those relationships, warm and stay connected with them, that is the whole point of your referral worthy program. It becomes an ongoing cycle and loop for you.
Oh, totally. But it's so easy to forget. I just launched a referral worthy like into my evergreen version of it over the past month. And like, it's funny. Put a pin in this, but if you guys want to talk about something that didn't go so pretty, oh, I got some stories now and they are recent, baby. um, but like, it's so easy for us to forget that the people who care about us want to hear from us and they want
Mhm.
to help us. And
Good point.
oh man, it hits like a gut punch every time. And like, so what I did to launch into it this time, as well as last May, and it's something that I do like every 6 months because otherwise I will not do it myself. So it's like selfishly, like this is how we're all going to go do our lead gen and keeping up with our networks. But literally, it's called the Book Solid Challenge, and all we do is go through and like figure out who all in our network we haven't talked to in a while, and then we email them. And we do it together in a Zoom room because otherwise, you won't fucking do it. Like,
Right.
because you haven't been like,
Mhm.
so it ends up being like, I have like old clients and stuff come back to it because like they know if I'm running it every 6 months that they'll be like touching base with their people at least every 6 months. So like if things are changing or if something new happens in somebody's network, like you're staying apprised of all of it.
Mhm.
That's
So
really
smart.
smart. Ugh,
I,
yeah.
I have those bookmarked for later. I did sign up for it, but I didn't do my homework. So-
That is okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be making it evergreen too, so people can get to it when they want to. But yeah,
Nice.
really, like the magic is definitely like in the room with accountability with other people there with you. Because at least for me, like maybe other people have better self control than that, or like can get past the part where they're just making the leads list. But like I can't.
I don't have self control either. I'm gonna need to sign up for this. I have no self control. It's the ADHD. Like, it's not that I don't want to do it. It's just that there's like 20 other things that come into my brain. I'm like, oh, but that's time consuming.
Yeah.
Even though it's really not. It's just my brain. I tell myself that it is, and then I jump to something else that takes 3 times longer. That isn't very helpful at all.
Right. Well, and
Right
especially
now.
like if you've been in a cycle where you're like doing a lot of client work in the moment, that's when it's easiest to fall off of that stuff because you're like, oh, I don't
Mhm.
need to maintain my network and stuff. Like I'm so busy. I've got work coming out of my ears. I've like, and folks forget like, hey, guess what? You could always be building a wait list. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, kind of leads me to my next question. A little bit of a pivot here, but what is your why? Why do you do what you do every day?
oh man, I used to hate that question so much. Um, So, because for a long time, I was like, it's just my job. Like, I was poor, and this is the fastest, easiest, best way I know how to make money. So, like, that's why. Um, but that has changed over the past couple of years. Like, I'm very fortunate to be married to somebody who is a software engineer and makes bank, so that like I can do what I want, and having that pressure off has definitely made it a more interesting question for me because like I don't have to do it anymore. Like I'm here because I want to be, and that does change things. So I really think it's the people though. Like really, like I am here to hang out with my friends and help my friends make bank. Like that's my why. It's really fun to make money with your friends.
I love that answer. That's I think of all the answers we've gotten so far, I think that's my favorite. I
Mhm. Mhm.
want to make money with my friends or
Yeah.
help my friends make money.
It's the
That's right.
best. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many folks who are like, "Oh, don't hire your friends," or like things get complicated. My biggest contract right now is with like my buddy who like I was up at his cabin a month ago and like we met on a party bus. like 7 years ago. Like, we're party friends. Now I'm on retainer for his law firm. And guess what? It's great. Like,
That's awesome.
so like as long as you're willing to like, keep lines clean. And, I mean, to be fair, he is a contract attorney. So he's like particularly good with boundaries around like this kind of stuff. But like, I love partnering with friends. I love like getting to hire Mary to come and MC my event. Like, I love getting to build stages and put my friends on them. Like, that for me is like, why would I ever want to do anything else?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I love that. I know Ashlan and I talk about that all the time. Like, we'd so much rather partner with our friends.
Yeah. Yeah. And do stuff like this. Like,
Yeah.
it's just so much, it fills your cup. Like, because I've been questioned by other people. They're like, aren't you busy enough doing it? I was like, yeah, but this is the fun thing. Like, I'm
Right.
always going to need something that is not my, job to be doing, because it's nice to have a fun hobby. So,
Exactly.
It absolutely is. And like, and I feel like it's kind of the same thing with like hobbies in general. Like, folks, like, it's pretty easy to like discount it. But even like, I mean, Feral Book Club is like my number one example of this right now, because we've been hanging now since like last June, I think.
Yeah.
And, or at least that's when I was added in. And of all of the things that I'm involved in right now, like, what's moved the needle the most in my business and socially for me, like over the past year? It's like that group and one other one that's also led by a business friend in a non-business space. And like, so for me, that's telling me that like, oh, bitch, you should have gotten a hobby a long time ago. Like,
It's so true though, because like I think it goes back to that piece of like making sure that you have connections or mentorship or guidance in kind of like your space, in owning your own business. Make sure you're hanging out with kind of like-minded people, but then also make sure that you're taking care of yourself and having fun. And I think when you put like those two things together, I feel like it's so much easier for the magic to happen.
yeah, definitely. You're just in such a better headspace. Like, so when the big opportunities do show up, like you're like grounded and like ready for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Plus, when you become friends with people, they have your back, more than that random guy you met at that networking group. And, yeah, I agree. So much nicer. Well, we are going to jump into what we refer to as the hot seat questions. They're not that hot. They're just fun questions that we like to ask. And they're going to be very random. So they're going to start one way and they're going to go completely different. So maybe that's why they're hot. So the first question I have in that is, what is the best and or worst advice that you've received in your career?
Worst advice is probably, I think I was 2 or 3 years into my business, and some guy who I respected a lot at the time told me that I couldn't sell clarity. And he told me I needed something more specific than that. And honestly, fuck you, Jonathan. You were wrong, bitch. Like,
we'll clip that out for you so you can just like nasty gram that to him.
oh man.
Oh, that's you know what? That's a really good answer.
Yeah. But you know what? That is something that a lot of people struggle with, and especially business owners. And we've talked about this before, Tori and I, like, what the fuck do you actually want? Like knowing what you want and how you want to build it. And I think that is one of the beautiful things about having your own business, is that like you can make and do what you want. And you just have to find that other person who wants the same thing and is willing to pay for it. I mean, there's a lot of people who are willing to pay for, quite honestly, really weird stuff. That's their jam. Like,
I met a yoni steaming coach not that long ago, and she's making pretty good money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people buy used socks on the internet, so why wouldn't they?
Yeah. 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 Totally.
So why not anything else?
Yeah.
That's gonna be my bar when I need to talk myself down. Well, people buy socks on the use socks on
Mhm.
the internet.
Mhm. It's a lot of weird
Um,
stuff that people buy on the internet. All right, like Tori said, total pivot. But you have a resource on your website called the Stop Doing List. And I did download it and I haven't used it yet, but I was like, oh gosh, I know why this is really good for me. But why do you feel like this is such an important tool for business owners to use?
Oh, because every single person who comes to me, who is a solopreneur, not so much people with small teams, but anybody who is only working by themselves will come to me and be like, okay, I'm ready to do more marketing. And my first instinct is always with what fucking time? Because most of them are already like burning it at both ends. And then they want to like pile up additional marketing activities on top of whatever else they're doing. And it's just not going to work. Like you have to create some space first. So I really love Jim Collins' Good to Great and the Stop Doing list in particular. But my issue with it was like, yeah, I mean, like I can put together a whole list of things I don't want to do anymore. But like, what do I do with it when I'm done? Like, I can't just offload all of it, but I probably could some of it, maybe. So
Mhm.
my version of the stop doing list kind of goes another step further, being like, okay, well, what can we delegate? What do we have to do? What can we delay? What doesn't need to happen right now? What's not actually a priority? So that like you can at least get your head right from the get-go and hopefully
Mhm.
knock a couple of things off your list so you can create some space for whatever it is you want to build.
I love that. So I'm downloading that after this
Yeah.
because yeah, that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question takes another completely different turn. And it's about I actually just read yesterday your recent Substack post, which really, really resonated. I don't know if you and I were like in the same headspace this week or what, but I needed that message. So thank you. And I really just want to bring it up to talk about it because I really liked it. So it's titled The Ground is Shifting and I'm Planting Anyway. And what I took from that is I just kind of received this beautiful message of like, the world's going to shit right now. And for me, I interpreted that as like, I'm constantly going back and forth between like, okay, like I feel like I'm just carrying on like nothing's happening. And that sucks. That doesn't feel good, but I have to. Then also like what's the fucking point? Like why should I plant my garden? My husband and I are also talking about planting a garden this year cuz you know, food is weird. And I'm like, but what's the fucking point? What if the world just collapses in like the next 6 months? Like, do we even need to build a garden right now? Do I need to focus on my business right now? And I've just been in this really weird headspace. And so I don't know if that's what you intended with your post, but like I really took a lot of that from it and I really appreciated it. So I just wanted to bring it up mostly so you could talk about it because I
Yeah.
feel like our
Yeah.
listeners might resonate with that message too.
It's top of mind for a lot of
Mm.
us right now. Every back channel conversation I'm having right now starts at something like chicken coops and then ends up like pretty quickly like where we'll be talking about business and then talking about climate change or talking about whatever dumb fucking thing came out of the administration this week and just the way that we are getting pummeled right now
Mhm.
and how challenging that is, how challenging it is to make a decision to do anything. And I mean, for anybody listening at this point, if you haven't planted your garden, do it because if everything does collapse in 6 months, you're going to be damn glad that you planted a garden. So like realistically, like planting seeds and like gardening and all of that, like for me, like it is a very like core root activity. Like this was what I thought I was going to get more of in my environmental studies degree was, um, more of that like relationship with the earth and, being a good steward and tending what I have available to me. And I feel like I'm in a place right now where like I'm not like, I don't feel like I need to set anything on fire right now, but I have been in this place where like I can feel something's changing in me internally that also are happening at the same time as all of this external stuff. And that added pressure, like honestly, touching grass feels like it's never been so important. It's just, right now we're touching dirt, and there is like a sense of I don't know. I get so much satisfaction from it on the one hand, but it also does feel like I'm still doing something to prepare that doesn't exist on the internet. And like
Mhm.
and having something tangible and like literally grounded and rooted for me is very, very important. Otherwise, like I end up in places I don't want to be.
Mhm.
I love that. I love that so much. And yeah, you're right. And I guess humans in general are good at adapting, right? And so we have to figure out a way to survive and keep moving forward. And yeah, I think those of us who own businesses, it impacts us too, because it's just like, how do we move forward? How do we make decisions? Like, we have no idea what's coming our way, or we kind of do, and we're afraid that that's going to become a reality. And yeah, how do we, we can't really fix that, but how can we keep moving forward? So yeah,
Yeah.
I love that post. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I also want to riff off of this too, because it's like if you stop everything, building up the momentum again is so hard. Like anytime that you halt all decision making and you're like, tomorrow or next week, Ashlan is going to deal with that. Like it piles up on each other. And so it is important to plant things that you are going to nurture over time, and also shows that like there is going to be a world and life, beyond. Like we can't just all just close in and be like, well, it all sucks and we're, and it's all failing and it's all burning. Because yeah, we have to kind of be on that more optimistic side, because
Right.
not everybody can just turtle in and be like, okay, don't, being so narrow minded about like the individualism instead of the collective, and like being, supportive, helpful, and resourced, as a community as a whole. So,
And I think
Absolutely.
that's the only way we're going to be able to fight this, is to, instead of going into ourselves, becoming more of a community and
mhm.
reaching out to other people and being resourceful. And yeah, I think that's really the only way we can resist at this point.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I completely agree. Like, I wish my camera was in a spot where I could show you guys this. But like right now, one half of my office is literally just like a hydroponic and seed starting.
Nice.
Like,
I love that.
I have so many over here, you guys. Like, it's like I have a guess what Dusty's hyper focus this week was.
I love it.
But
I
really,
love
like, I
that.
mean, I text the book group chat and one of my other group chats yesterday, and I was like, "Hey, so I have this setup. So if anybody needs like tomato starts in 2 months, like hit me up because I'm going to have extras." And
Nice.
like, I've just decided that this is going to be like my little part of the resistance over here. I'm like, okay, I've got my volunteer opportunities. I'm making my 5 calls and I am doing seed starts for people. Like,
Mhm.
bring me your seeds and I will return you a start in 2 months. Just
Yes.
like, and like on the one hand, I'm like, it's so silly. And on the other hand, I'm like, you know what? But this is something I'm good at and this is something I can contribute. I can help people make money and I can help feed people. Like
Mhm.
this is my role in the resistance for the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Love
that.
that.
That's so powerful. That's
Hmm.
great.
All right, redirecting again. We talked a little bit about referral worthy, but I just want to kind of glean off the top of that. Like, what is the number one thing that a business needs to do today to make them truly referral worthy?
Hmm. So I'm going to answer it in kind of a sideways way because usually if a business is getting some referrals but not enough, I can almost always guarantee that there is one of three things happening. And one is that you've recently gone through a pivot and nobody knows about it. Two is that you have a messaging issue. So you have trouble
Mhm.
talking about it and therefore everybody else does too. Or a systems issue. So once people like get, they say yes to working with you, it's a shit show after that. So like usually if somebody wants to be referral worthy, but they're not quite bridging that gap yet, one of those things needs addressed in some way. So whether that is your onboarding or like making sure you're following up or just better communication, things like that. Like that was a place where I struggled a lot very early on in my career. Like I wasn't sure like how much to communicate. Like I don't want to be annoying, but I also like don't want people to be in the dark, things like that. And with messaging, like messaging is a bitch, man. Like it's a hard thing to do. It's a moving target. Like you try different things for different campaigns, like, and sometimes it lands and sometimes it doesn't. So there's
Mhm.
just there are so many variables in a business, but fundamentally, if you want to be referral worthy, you've got to lock those three things down. Like your systems have to be good, your messaging has to be super clear. And if you've made a pivot, that is okay, but don't get upset when you're getting the wrong kind of referrals.
Yeah, that's
Nobody
true.
knows. Like,
Yeah.
That's really
It
good.
reminds me of that Instagram audio that was trending for a while. Like, nobody's gonna know. They're gonna know. Like, they're not gonna know that you made a pivot unless you tell them.
I know. Well, and like it's like the cobbler's shoes problem for a lot of the
Mhm.
folks that I work with because when it comes to making a pivot, which, you alluded, like I've done this so many times at this point, like so many times over 15 years. And once you do, the thing with a pivot means that means all your website copy has to be updated. It means all of the things you post on social have to start changing. It means like you have to like go back and redo all the shit you've already done. And like, ugh. Like
It's exhausting.
it's exhausting, and the
Yeah.
weight of it just, like, bears down on you, and that, like, honestly, addressing that dread feeling is, like, 80% of what we do in Referral Worthy is just not having to do it by yourself because, like, I mean, I guarantee, like, right now, are both of your websites, like, 100%, like, right where you want yeah, there you go. There you go.
Not even close.
Never,
I
never
literally
as a
updated my
marketer.
about page yesterday. Like,
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
It's I feel like I get in my head about it so much too, where I'm like, well, I know what I do. And this is what I do, so it's fine. Like
Yeah.
we'll figure it out.
Mhm.
But no, no. I need to take my own advice that I give my clients, right?
right, and, yeah, and especially for people who work in marketing, I feel like we are the worst about this.
The worst marketers for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, yeah, like, I really only feel like my messaging has gotten super clear and concrete really over the past, like, 9 months.
Well, I was gonna tell you that like you've been inspiring me with your posts on social media and your content. Like I'm like, oh, I need to be like Dusty because I'm not publishing anything worthy at all at the moment. And I'm like, okay, so people in my circle are doing it, so I could figure this out.
Man, you know what really, really helped me was a couple years ago, I met this gal, her name's Anya. She's actually in Referral Worthy right now, and she is, like, right on that Gen Z millennial cusp, and she got me to fall in love with short form video. Like, I really didn't get it before that,
Mhm.
and now it's so much easier for me to do things like take B-roll when I'm doing things and then just throw text over it because, like, I don't wanna do trends. I don't wanna do dumb shit. Like, I know where I'm strongest is with my writing, and that means
Mhm.
the writing needs to be front and center. So, I can do that and still, like, use a template and be funny, but, like, a lot of the stuff you see, like, that is me plus AI plus templates, and, like, a lot of it, like, I mean, I would say that I do 95% of my, like, content creation in the tub when I'm stoned on a Friday because
Love this.
that's when I'm relaxed and that's when I'm funny. And so, like, I'll just sit there and just, like, hyper focus on it, and if I have my B-roll sitting there, then I can just batch it, right? And then pre-schedule it, but, like, really, I mean, as far as, like, being able to keep up on social and things like that and just having enough content, really just film yourself doing dumb shit. It can be literally anything. It does not matter. Um, Like
And
if
it's
you
much easier to just, yeah, like
it's so much easier.
no pressure.
If
Yeah.
you notice like good lighting in your house somewhere, like in a moment, just stop what you're doing. Like literally like stick your tripod up, just go film yourself like walking through that area. Like you'll find a way to use it later because like nobody's going to know if you filmed that 2 years ago or
That's very
yesterday.
true.
Like so
Mhm.
like going back and like using old stuff, things like that, like it saves so much time down the road.
That's really smart. Yeah, I have noticed a lot of your videos are like that, and that's genius. I love that.
You've also inspired me because I know you use old B-roll. Like, obviously, our hair color is different than when
Yeah.
we first met each other. And I'm like, that is the thing I always worry about. I'm like, they're going to clock that it's not right now because, my hair is like totally different. But
But it
if you
doesn't
do
matter.
enough of it, then it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So,
And that's pretty much it. Yeah, like I definitely, I mean, I do really want to do a photo shoot now, like with the blue hair, so that I do have some updated stuff because, like, I do feel like I look the most me right now that I've ever looked, and so that actually I would say is also making me more confident about like showing up on social media. Like, I feel like who I am on the outside matches who I am on the inside now more than it did, and so
mhm.
that feels like it's kind of removed a barrier there too,
Yeah, I feel you on that. We just did this like a week ago, and it's,
right?
yeah.
I looked like a scary blonde mean girl before, and so people didn't know what to do with me, and, like, I swear to God, the second I dyed my hair blue, I'm like, "Men don't feel so entitled to my time, and everyone thinks I'm on roller derby. Fuck yeah."
Nice.
Like,
I love that. I
that
love
was
that.
the
Incredible.
oh my God, best greeting I've ever gotten at a networking event. Like, the only dude who came up to me the entire night was like, "Hey, did I see you at the last roller derby thing?" And I was like, "You didn't, but thank you."
But that's a
Like,
great compliment. I love that.
I forgot about roller derby. I forgot it existed, and I really need to go see that in person.
I'm
Yeah.
taking my oldest here pretty quick to see the Rose City Rollers, and
Be
yeah,
fun.
they're
Mhm.
stoked.
That's exciting. That's
I love
exciting.
that.
Well, I'm going to end our hot seat questions on another super random question here. We're asking all of our guests this because we're forming a playlist, but what song is currently on repeat for you? And it could be songs.
Oh man. I'm gonna cheat and look at my Spotify real quick because
Oh,
like
do
I've
it.
been on like a new music tear recently and I've
Love
got
it.
like a couple here. Ooh, Tears for Fun by Griff.
Okay.
That one is a fucking banger. Um Thoughts I Have While Lying in Bed by The Main.
Okay. I don't know if I've heard that one, but
I
I'll have
think
to look
I've
it up.
heard both of those like in my Apple like new music playlist. I love it.
I love
Yeah,
it.
I got turned on to Griff by Taylor Swift, like posting about her like several years back, and like
Nice.
she's so good. She's so talented. And the main is like an old emo band. I think they came out in like
Mhm.
'05, and all the new shit they're putting out is fucking money. Like it's so
Okay.
good. So I'm very in my like elder emo phase right now and just like
I love
very
it.
blissed out about it.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect.
So great.
That's perfect. Well, at this point, we've come to the end of our questions. So, before we kind of wrap up, I just want to kind of shoot it back to you and see if there's anything that you want to make sure to share with our audience before we wrap up. Anything we didn't talk about that you want to.
I mean, honestly, I feel like we've covered everything. Like, if you feel like if you need some support in like becoming referral worthy, come hang out. It's 12 weeks, it's pretty cost effective, and like, it's a good group of humans.
Yay. I love
Yay.
that. I love that. Thank you. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. This was a great conversation. Thank you, Dusty, for being
Thanks for
here.
being here.
Yes. And listeners, if you have questions or guests that you want to suggest or anything at all, feel free to DM us on Instagram. And other than that, we will see you all next time. Thanks for listening.
Yeah,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you for listening to the Take the Leap podcast. We hope you found useful takeaways you can apply to your entrepreneurial journey. Subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and keep in touch and follow us on Instagram. If you have business questions, shoot us a direct message or leave us a comment. We'll try to cover it in an upcoming episode. And visit our website, taketheleap-today.com, for more resources like our online course that accompanies this podcast.